Coming to you live from the Drew Estate and Gurkha Cigar Studios in the great state of New Hampshire. Welcome to the Spare Notes series with your hosts, Matt Tobacco, Pat Chamberlain, and William Cooper.
And good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to another episode of the Spare Notes series. My name is Matt Tobacco from SmokeTobacco.com in the Drew Estate Cigar Studios from beautiful Nashua, New Hampshire, in the great state of New Hampshire. And also in this great state over in the Gurkha Cigar Studios, it's my main man, Mr. Patrick Chamberlain, attorney at law. And from beautiful Indian Trail, North Carolina, God's country, some might say, it's the man, the myth, the legend, on the red stage, representing Perdomo Cigars, it's Mr. William Cooper. Gentlemen, how are we?
Good. Good to be back with you guys.
Sorry, as I get my cigar lit here. It's another beautiful. It's June. Is it June Eve? When's June 1st? Is that Monday?
Tomorrow. Yeah,
is it tomorrow? Yeah, it's June Eve. Wow. Careful, you're all ready.
It's June and I'm still doing PCA recaps.
I know.
5 more to go. Well, I fell behind because of Dubai and then getting sick. So, yeah. That's
honestly, all of my stuff's behind right now because I've had to make the decision to.
You have more important things. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I've been a little bit removed. I've made sure that the shows go on because it's the easiest thing I can do. Believe it or not. But I'm behind with everything else. But honestly, I've had a lot going on at home, as most people know. So I but I'm gonna try to get caught up on some things here and there. And eventually we'll be back to a regular form. But
yep.
Oh God, I'm not gonna get into the same old story again. But yeah, it's just every day is a new adventure.
Yeah.
But hey, you know what? Could be worse. You could be putting bad guys away like Pat. Long days in a courtroom, no coffee. Judge glaring at you like, who's this fucking young guy with his fancy 3-piece suit? Thinks he's all that. It's just some young prosecutor. Show him the 50 states. Pat's over there like, I'm just trying to make a name for myself, man. Just want to be a good attorney.
I'm sure he is. I'm sure he's excellent.
And, he's just trying to do his job. Meanwhile, there's some dude looking at him who, I don't know, maybe robbed a bank or something. And he's just like, that fucking prosecutor over there. I'm going to shake him. Pat's like, I got to get this guy in jail. He's going to start stalking me outside my house. It's a crazy world that they live in. When you really start to think about it, it's... I don't know. I don't know how you do it, Pat. I mean, it's crazy. And then you got Coop, who... I know his job is not easy, but he makes it look easy. He's always traveling around the world, goes to Miami 20 times a year. Must be difficult.
I'm planning, yeah. There's going to be a late summer trip to Miami. That I've decided.
No,
it's been a
bet
little
my
while.
life on it.
I haven't been there since March. So it's...
Oh, God forbid. Oh, man, you must be struggling.
Oh, it's I got the shakes. It's like I got to get back there. I'm like, I'm in Miami.
The Magic City.
I love that city. I love that place, and it's the Magic City for me.
Be the setting for Grand Theft Auto 6. A lot of people are excited about that. I know that means nothing to you, Coop, but it does mean something to Pat. So
it's a video game. I know that. I have 3 boys, so I'm not totally out of tune with that. And one of them is almost your age, so
yeah,
And I think 2 of them are older than Pat, so
Pat's how old are you? 20? You're 25?
7.
You're 27?
Okay, so my daughter and son are older than him.
Yeah. I'll be 32 in December.
Yeah, my daughter's 33.
Yeah, it's not easy. It's not easy getting this old, Pat. See all this gray? See all this gray and white that I have? Yeah, that wasn't there. Once you get married, you have the kids, That's when the gray starts. That's when the real stress starts.
Well,
don't worry, you'll see.
I haven't had the gray problem. I've had the hair falling out problem, more or less, but not the gray problem.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And got my first chest hair last week, so
Wow. That's monumental. I remember my first chest hair. I think I was about 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was about 11. I started. I my dad's side of the family. It's all Italian. It's a hairy group. You get it nice and young. Yeah. No, it's good to be back. Nicole knows I'm doing a show. Okay. That's another saga for off the air, but yeah, it's just when it rains, it pours, man. I apologize for that. Last week we, were able to kind of finally, reconvene since the trade show, and we really started to talk a lot about, kind of like our post trade show, recap, if you will, and what we saw, what we liked, pros, cons, overall thoughts of the show. We covered a lot of it. I think there was a few things we might have missed, if any. If there was any, remaining thoughts or feelings about that. Obviously, we're gonna probably finish that out tonight, and then I think for the most part, we're on the show wise, I think we're done with PCA, and then we look to the second half of the year, which, by the new schedule, I mean, you get the first third of the year is leading up to the show, announcements, releases, doing the show, post-show coverage, and then you get like this middle section of like the summertime where it's kind of quiet because now the show's over, all the announcements have been made, now it's just products slowly shipping, out to the stores here and there, and then it kind of picks back up at the end of the year again as you go into the end of the year stuff, and a lot of the bigger special releases come out for the holidays, and it's, Cigar of the Year talk stuff, and it's a weird new cycle. Sorry. It's a weird new cycle for covering the industry. I don't know if you've noticed that same pattern, Coop, but that seems to me like it's kind of how it's been the last 2 years since the show moved.
Yeah, there is a really excellent point you make, actually, because when I do my when I look at like traffic on the website, which is ultimately the measurement that we all have, right?
Yep.
Whether it's website or podcast traffic, right? There's been patterns every year, right? And normally the biggest months were June and July, and then December and January. June and July being trade show season, December, January being end of year season. It's kind of shifted. Last year there was a big shift where there was a lot more traffic in the first half. The first half had significantly more traffic than the second half until December. So there was, again, that uptick in December, but really the traffic stayed pretty steady from January through May so far. So it has made a big difference, for sure, because of that shift. And it kind of has, and that's, there was a couple reasons why I started putting food reviews in. And actually, those food reviews kind of gave me a little boost last year in months where I probably wanted the boost. So it's worked out well, is what I'm just saying. So there's a readjustment, and everything's different. And we have these lulls of news now that we used to have those lulls of news in August and September, if you remember. Now the lulls of news are going to be May and June. That's where we're going to see it. And I think in the summer it will start to pick back up again.
Even July, I wouldn't rule out July.
No, I think we'll go into July. Yeah, but there'll be stuff that people want to get out for the fall. So back when I started, we used to have a very early spring release season followed by the PCA season. And then that kind of went away as the decade kind of went on.
Yeah. And then because before last year, I mean, the show was right in July, so it's like right in the middle of the year. You got the biggest time, so you got the several months before leading up, and then the months after. Then you just ride right into the holiday, into the year season. If anything, the quietest time was January, February, and then that
February
was it.
February was always the slowest month, not because it was 28 days, but average traffic per day in February was always a doldrum for me. Not anymore. Not anymore. That changed. That's changed because now even some of the PCA stuff started creeping out in February last year. And even this year, so it's definitely changed for sure.
Yeah.
Now I'd say the slowest month is probably going to be June. I think June might be the slowest month. That was what it was for me last year.
I think so too, and honestly, that'll be the best month for me to get caught up.
Yeah, because like I said, I'll be done with PCA stuff on Tuesday of this week, and then I'm just and I'm already getting back into a review cycle. And reviews are always good, but I fell behind on reviews because I was sick, and I was in Dubai, and you run out of stuff. The backlog does tip, but I've been able to get the backlog up a little bit now, so I'll hopefully be okay with that.
Yeah, we have some stuff that we have a couple of reviews that are ready to go out, and a couple more that are, I guess, almost ready. So we're just gonna start pumping out a bunch of reviews and kind of filling the void with that too. It's always it's a great. The quiet times are great to pump out a bunch of reviews.
Yeah. Well, the human element, you can't avoid that when it comes to reviews. So if you're sick, and Pat, I'm sure, is discovering this as he gets to the review, there's nothing you can do. You can't smoke a cigar if you're sick or congested or something like that. You just can't do it. There's no way. There's no way to do it. It's just how it is.
Yeah, it's tricky, and for the integrity of the review, it's like you don't want to take a chance giving a review and then you're already off a little bit because.
Well, I'll give you guys a little secret. I don't write my reviews in one shot. So the backgrounds, I'll set those up ahead of time. But still, the smoking of the cigar ultimately is what you put in there. So I'm able to that's how I'm able to get a productivity level of my reviews up higher, is to do most of the background stuff up early.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
At least get some of that shit out of the way.
Yeah. So I have a couple really good cigars that the background's done. I just haven't gotten it. Being sick, I couldn't smoke them. So it doesn't matter if it's an expensive or a cheap cigar. I'm going to treat it the same way in that case. You're just not going to get smoked.
Did you smoke that Bandolero yet?
Not yet. I know I said I would smoke it. I have not smoked it yet. I should have
Oh, that's right. You did say you're like, oh, by next show I'll have something for you. That's right, and you didn't do it.
I did. Well, again, I was slowed down again this week. I should have took it down tonight. I did. But no. So I did not. But there was another cigar, Pat, that you mentioned that I smoked, and I wanted to talk to you about. And I'm trying to remember what it was.
Is it a new one?
It's a newer one. Yeah. I gotta see what Pat thought of it.
Is it a Saka? Is it the Aladino 85? Is it?
I know you mentioned Aladino 85.
What else is new? The Plasencia.
A Plasencia.
The Alma de Celia.
Yes, I did smoke that, and it's kind of funny. What I'll just say is, what I discovered at the trade show is Plasencia wasn't the first altitude cigar. There's this other company, Natura, which I'm actually smoking now, that they've been doing it for a couple of years already. So it isn't the first, but I thought that was a very mild, not very mild, it was a mild Alma cigar, was my first reaction out of that thing. It wasn't as strong as the other ones, yeah.
I think that's what I said last week, is it's like if you thought of like a Connecticut wrapper.
Yeah, you were 100% right.
And that's why I wasn't a huge fan of it, to be honest with you. It wasn't a bad cigar, but I guess expectations were different, which, it's more of a subjective critique.
I smoked the Hex, which normally I have bad experiences smoking those Hexagon cigars. I actually thought it smoked good in the Hex.
Is that the one that we got at the show with the lighter?
That's the one. I don't know if I got that one at the show or not.
Oh, because I know they gave out the little gift set, and it had the stick lighter, and they had one Hexagon.
Okay, because I remember I gave mine to Aaron Nielsen, my lighter.
I still
that's
did, like my pre-show prediction of them doing a Honduran Alma cigar. I wish that was what they went with instead, because I feel like that would be, at least for me, that would have been more enjoyable.
They do the Cosecas of the Hondurans, but I would like to see them take a shot at an Alma in the Honduras. I really would like to see that.
I wouldn't rule it out. I think it's still possible that we see that in the next couple of years. I think it's possible.
I want to say there's at least two more Almas. One is water, and I forget what the other one is. But there's at least two more Almas in the pipe. I remember there was 6 of them, is what Nestor told me when they started. And there's gonna be like then they're doing like variations within those almas, like they did, the Claro with the Alma Fuerte. So there's some but there was gonna be 6 of them. He told me.
Yeah, that's what I would do to take the wind out of my father's sales with the Honduran factory. Is I would just make a Alma series Honduran Puro, just to get your name out there in the Honduran category.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, I would agree with you on that. Because what I know is that factory is going to start offering up like production to their current partners in there. So we interviewed John Huber for the Jukebox show a couple of weeks ago, and John said that he was told that because he has some cigars made at my father, he's going to be able to get some of them made in Honduras as well. So it's some projects he'll be exploring with that.
You guys think Ashton's going to do a Honduran cigar now?
Oh, I would bet they'll do one.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean,
La Roma de Cuba, Honduras.
You might not see it. You might not see it right away, but yes, when things are like really rolling over there, they're gonna be like, hey, we want to do a Honduran one too. So,
I would like to see Ashton like kind of get away from La Roma de Cuba. It's been the last 5 years. That's been their primary focus. I agree. I kind of would like to see them go back to the core Ashton line and do a few things. But we'll see. I mean, because they haven't done anything since Symmetry. That's 10 years ago.
I know.
Yeah,
and it's not that their cigars aren't great, but it's like, it's just like,
and the only non-Dominican Ashton is a Symmetry, correct? That's like I believe it's Nicaraguan.
Yeah.
It's Nicaraguan. Yeah, it's Nicaraguan. It's still made by Fuente, but it's Nicaraguan tobacco.
Yeah. I like them use something in the Ashton line.
But I think anything branded Ashton will come out of Fuente, and anything La Roma de Cuba or San Cristobal will come out of my father. So I don't know if they would go. If they do Honduran, they'll probably make it at Fuente.
Does Fuente do they roll anything out of that factory that uses Honduran tobacco? I don't think they do.
I'm sure they got some, but I don't know of anything that they roll with it. To be honest with you, I couldn't see them not have any. I couldn't see them not have any. Is what I'm saying.
Fuente, they have a lot of tobaccos backlog warehouses. I mean, the Coop's right. I mean, it's not a question of do they have it. I mean, I think they have it. It's just do they
want to work with it?
Yeah.
I'm curious if they have anyone that they make cigars for that uses, or I mean, I suppose they could have their own cigars if they don't disclose what's in it and might have Honduran. I don't know, but
yeah,
I don't know anything that uses Honduran tobacco that comes out of the factory.
When you go in, anytime you guys go on a factory tour, my advice is when they take you into that room where they have the bales of tobacco, do some wandering.
Yeah.
You'll find tobaccos that you would never expect to see at a particular factory in there. I'll never forget the one time I did it at Davidoff. I saw A.J. Fernandez tobaccos in there. So
Fuente also buys a lot of tobacco from the Oliva family.
A lot, yeah, they do a lot. The Ecuadorian, I know they get a lot of their Ecuadorian from them.
Yep.
For the wrappers too, yeah.
Yep. Like all the Chateau Fuente natural, that's all Oliva.
Yeah. I remember I walked through General and I saw Filipino tobaccos and just Venezuelan, just crazy stuff I saw.
Yeah, General's another good example. They got a lot of different stuff that they work with.
And here's the thing, it was funny is those Filipino tobaccos they were using for some of the flavored cigars is what I found out. So they actually made use of that. It wasn't just sitting around, but they kind of keep that. They don't really talk much about that, but I think for some of the CAO stuff and some of the M stuff, they were using it.
Yeah. I kind of forgot where I was going. I was going to say
about the show. Yeah, we'll talk about the show.
Well, I was going to say really quickly, I'm smoking a Perdomo Legacy Connecticut Bellicoso, which is it's my first in the Bellicoso. I've smoked other sizes and other variations, but this is my first Bellicoso. And Perdomo seemed to be really big on this Bellicoso size. they kept talking about it. I don't want to say they kept pushing for it, but they made sure people knew that they were doing this size, which I'm not complaining about. So it was it was the first box of the Legacy that I bought. So I knew like right away. I'm like, this Bellicoso, like there's something special here. They seem really excited about it. And smoking some of the other sizes, I'm really enjoying this so far. It's got the same profile as the others, but it's just a little different. And I like Bellicosos. I know I
love Bellicoso. I love Bellicoso.
I mean, arguably, it's one of my favorite kind of like non-Parejo sizes. Because it, for the most part, it still is just for the tip. It still burns pretty evenly throughout. I mean, it's really in the burning area of the cigar, nothing changes. So I've always enjoyed it, but yeah, very excited for this. And again, it's just top-notch quality, man.
Bear and I have always said this going way back with Nick Perdomo that it's hard to find someone who does a better torpedo or figurado than Nick and his team.
Yeah.
They just they excel at that size, and they're I see and a lot of times they're underwhelming in some of the lines, but when you get a good one and you get that nice tapering effect, I have not smoked any of those box press ones yet, the Bellicosos. So I've smoked all three of the blends now, but I have not smoked that size. So I will be down the road.
I still think my favorite Perdomo, like overall, not that it's the only one I smoke, but like overall, my favorite is that Epicure size. I think. I mean, it got our cigar of the year last year. Kind of not a surprise if you had to pick a size for us to love from Perdomo, but it's just it's just for them. It's probably the size I smoke the most of.
Yeah, I mean, you're coming off I mean that Legacy is, and here's the funny thing is I think the Legacy I like the shade grown the best of the three right now.
Yeah.
Normally it's always the Maduro always has the edge, but that shade grown is so different. That Connecticut, and that's not any knock on the Maduro in that one. That Connecticut I really like that Connecticut.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, for Connecticut, it packs a lot.
Yeah.
It's so different. For a Perdomo, especially a Perdomo Connecticut, but at the same time, like you smoke this thing, and you're like, it tastes a little bit different, but like it's a Perdomo, like it's just job well done.
Well, that's the only wrapper, incidentally, that they don't grow in the whole, like all their Connecticut shades are Ecuadorian grown, but I think the X factor is that binder, which is that shade grown. They're using the shade grown on the binder. I think that's, and I don't want to put words. I think Nicholas made a last minute call to add in the Connecticut. Well, now it was later. Originally, it was only going to be in 2 blends. I think this is going back like 18 months ago. So I don't want to say it was last minute, but I think that was added in later on that they decided to go with that.
Really?
Yeah.
They were just going to do 2.
I think they were just going to do 2, and Nicholas, if he's listening, or he can correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe they changed their mind a little over a year. Because I've known about this project for a while. They've been working on with this. I didn't know all the details of it, but originally I thought it was only going to be in 2 blends.
That definitely would have been different for sure, because they always do 3. But
I think it was good. I like what they did. They had a theme with that tobacco in all 3 of them, which was kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
Look, that's a big story, and I heard you guys. I was catching up on a couple of shows. I heard you guys on Wednesday or last Wednesday or a couple weeks ago. You were talking about this could be a contender, is what you were saying. I don't disagree with you guys on that at all. I absolutely think that it's too early for me because I haven't even put it to a formal review yet. But that cigar was so excellent at the trade show, and afterwards it's been just as good. So
yeah, we haven't. Pat's actually working on reviewing this particular cigar right now because I gave him 3 out of the box.
Yeah,
and said go review these. So it's coming.
It is Coop eligible this year. It is Coop eligible this year, though.
As it is for us. It is eligible for us as well. And I want to once again give a shout out to Mr. Jay Davis of Blue Smoke of Dallas. You know, Jay, you get more advertising on this show for free.
And if anyone deserves it, it's him.
It is. I have to say,
Yeah.
Jay's the only guy who gets a plug on this show that doesn't pay for it. I mean, it's
What I love about Jay is I do order cigars from Jay. Okay.
Yeah.
And he's a great. And he gets them. But Jay will always remind me, and he's always selling. But he always reminds me, hey, did you get this? And what's good is I'm glad he does that because. Oh no, Jay! Yeah, throw those in there. You know, yeah, give me a couple of those to throw in there. Yeah, because I need them.
well, that's the thing. When I order stuff from him, he takes care of me. So
He takes care of it. We get it fast, and because one thing he reminded me that he had was pork tenderloins. So,
my two bundles are on the way, as well as a couple of other things that I did need, and I said, you know what? Yeah, throw them in, like the Aladino 85.
Yeah, that was I got from Jay as well.
Yep, they're on their way. So I
And that's not a knock on any of our other retail partner friends, by the way. There's some great.
No,
I know we have
no.
Kurt's a great retailer. Dave. Jeff,
To be-
you know,
to-
all these
to-
Gabe.
To be
Yeah.
honest with you, I've always ordered my tatuaje from Jay, and it's just kind of something that started once, and then I just kind of kept rolling with it, and I eventually was like, I said I buy all my tatuaje from Jay, and I support Jay because Jay supports us in what we do.
He really does support us.
So you know, I
in a lot of
appreciate
ways.
him.
Yeah. Yes. Oh,
Especially like not even just here on the show and other stuff, but like, you know, when we go to the trade show, we have a problem, and I try not to bug Jay, but sometimes I do, and he always takes care of it. So
he always will take my call. He knows I'm calling to complain about something. With the PCA.
Jay,
and then talks me off the ledge. And what's good is he'll talk me off the ledge on a few things, and I appreciate that before I lose my cool on something sometimes, and it's good. And then I understand it. I'm like, okay, this makes some sense, you know. So I appreciate that as well.
Jay's always been, you know, an ear to listen to me when I've needed to vent too, and you know, that's what makes him a good friend. So
Yeah, absolutely.
appreciate you. Are the Perdomo Legacies out yet? Yes and no. So they launched through Two Guys Smoke Shop and TwoGuysCigars.com a couple weeks ago. However, they won't ship nationally until June 25th or 26th, I believe Nick said.
There are a few other stores that have been getting it for launch events, but there's a handful. I want to say the store I went to in Biloxi, the cigar shop in Biloxi, just had an event and they did a launch there.
Okay.
So there's a few stores that have it now. Dave had it first, and then there's a small amount, but the big launch, from what I understand, or the nationwide shipping is June 23rd. And if Perdomo says it's shipping June 23rd, it's shipping June 23rd, is what I'll tell you.
Yeah. I mean, Perdomo's, if they whatever they tell you is that's what's going to happen. You know, I wish everyone was like that, but
there's other companies like, look, and I'm not even going to knock them. I'm going to give them credit. You know, J.C. Newman, if they don't think that cigar is ready, they will not ship it. And I give them a lot of credit for that. They will not rush it. They will not rush anything out. And I'm glad they do. So I appreciate it. Sometimes, as much as I'd like to know when it's shipping, I can appreciate what they do as well.
yeah, I mean, there's a lot of companies like that, and I think it is I'd rather have something get delayed and be correct than just, well, we said June, so let's just send it, and you know, then it shows up and it's like, oh well.
Yeah.
So, because a first impression is always a first impression. Now, there are a few exceptions to that rule, because there have been several times when a new cigar has come out, and Pat and I talked about this Wednesday with the aging and stuff like that. And I think everybody knows where I'm going with this. And I like to pat myself on the back because, you know, I try a cigar and I think it's good or it's good, but I know, you know, a few months from now it's going to mature a little bit more. It's going to be fantastic. And Coop goes, I don't know. And I go, all right, just give it some time. And then it comes around and he's like, oh, you know, you were right about that cigar. And I'm like, I know.
Well, I'll give you that. The biggest example of that was Paladin de Saka. I was like,
and Saka Khan.
You know, yeah, but Paladin actually went number 2 on my list.
Yeah.
Saka Khan was like 11, but Paladin almost won a cigar of the year. I mean, that's how good it was. So I'll give you that. But I will say, it's there's other ones that's why I know I was a little negative on the My Father Honduras, and I'm just saying I'm reserving judgment. Let's see what happens when it comes out, because trade show samples are never what they're cracked up to be sometimes.
Sometimes, although then again, I smoked the same samples and I thought it was great.
Yeah, you don't know. I mean, but you just don't know.
I know. Now that's shipping out soon though, right? I think
I
June.
want to say June they're shipping. Yeah. My Father, I don't know when they have the other release, which is the Series JJ Limited, but I don't know when that's shipping. But that may be later in the year. But I think the Hondurans, not the Blues, are due to ship soon.
We have the answer to that actually, because I remember Joseph Garcia told me. Expected mid-June. With an MSRP of $22 and 2,500 boxes being made. ERH will ship in mid-June.
No, My Father Blue is not that expensive, yeah.
And Blue is going to be shipped in mid-June. Yeah, they're all coming out mid-June.
So it's the JJ that's the $22 one, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, it's gonna be so June's gonna be a fun month for My Father.
Yeah.
But
I'll say too, like we talked about earlier, the like early contenders for the list, and since Coop's here now, since Coop was sick, Coop and I both were sick, but before I was sick, I was able to kind of smoke what's been coming in the shop, and I think this is going to be a tough list this year because there's a lot of good cigars, and it's shocking. Because usually, like, when you smoke it when it first comes in, you kind of know, all right, this is a all right cigar, or this one's a really good cigar. A lot of what's come out now, I've had, that kind of moment of being impressed every time I've had it. And it's tough. It's, like I was telling Matt, like, the past 2 reviews I've done have been, or at least 2 out of the 3 have been above a 90, which is unheard of for me. I typically don't score that high, but they're just good cigars.
Yeah.
And there's many others I've had that have not been reviewed that I've been nearly as impressed with. So I think it's going to be a tough list this year. It's going to be a lot of resmokes.
Yeah,
I gotta smoke that Bandolero. Everyone's been telling me, including you, Pat. Now Jay told me as well. I gotta smoke. I need to.
Bandolero Premium, he scored very high, as well as the Perez Carrillo Indoor scored very high.
Yeah. So on Coop right now, the scoring is actually lower than last year. But here's the reason for that. There's still a lot of 24 cigars that got reviewed this year. So it's hard for me to say how 25 is going to turn out as far as that goes with that. I did have 194 this year, but it won't be eligible for cigar of the year. So, but otherwise, and that's the highest score I've given in about 6 or 7 years. And that was on that Davidoff Oro Blanco.
It's been a good year so far.
Yeah.
All the big releases haven't even come out yet, so there's still a bunch of.
Yeah,
there's a lot of stuff that has yet to come.
Pat, you mentioned this on a show, and I was glad you mentioned it. Night Commander.
Yep.
Let me tell you, that's one of the best cigars I've had in the last 12 months. Period. That Night Commander is Nick's best work by far. I am blown away by that cigar.
It was the only other cigar that's come close to that satisfaction to me in that portfolio is the Collector's Corona Tabernacle that he did 5 years ago.
Right.
But the Night Commander, I think, is hands down one of the best cigars. I'll say one of the best Connecticut broadleafs on the market. I think that's just everything about it very well executed.
Oh, well,
it's Unicorn's $100. This is Night Commander's $30.
Yeah, and it was the second release of Night Commander that was really, really good. And these annual releases, they do vary, because you and I have also talked about Pledge of Allegiance, how the first year was so much better than the second year. So
Mhm.
it can make a difference with that release year, is what I'm saying. Night Commander. When I told Nick I was really high on that cigar, and he asked me, he goes, "Did you smoke the 24?" He goes, and I said, "Yeah." He goes, he thought that one he came out exceptional, and I said, "Yeah, that one definitely came out exceptional."
Um, I can't remember if I mentioned this last week, in regards to some of the new stuff, but I have been impressed with Altadis's newer products too. The Concerto is really good. Romeo 150 is good. I think that those again, this is still early. This is all just how it feels right now, and things can change. But I don't know
Yeah.
where, but I could see those maybe ending up on the list somewhere as well. I mean, I was really impressed with those.
The Romeo
Yeah,
150. It's funny because the other week we were talking, there was one cigar that I couldn't think of that when I was saying like the new things I've smoked, and
Yeah.
that's one of them. And I was blown away by it.
yeah.
It's like everything Romeo's done so far. It's unbelievable, and it's honestly I don't know like the blend because that was a blind smoke for me. But is it AJ? It tastes like something out of AJ's
No.
factory.
No, it's actually not. It's actually they're making it in the DR, but they have a bunch of tobaccos from different agricultural producers. So there's like Placencia tobacco in there. There's Peruvian tobacco in there. There's ASP tobacco in there. I'm leaving out another one as well. There's some of Altadis's Mendez tobacco in there. So it's a lot of different farms that they've went to from different regions. But they did decide to make that in the DR. They didn't make. That's the one big release they didn't do with AJ, because most of the stuff at the trade show was AJ releases.
Yeah, I was extremely impressed by it. It's a great cigar. Honestly, it's one of the out of what I've had so far. Like if you're looking at like a pairing, like that is a really really good bourbon cigar. Really good bourbon
Well,
cigar.
yeah. Um, I look. I thought that's. I thought our team voted Altadis as the company and best booth at the show. So there was a company, and best booth at the trade show. That was a close vote too. It wasn't a landslide, but Altadis had an incredible show. A lot of compelling releases that I know things like the Monte Cristo M. That was kind of a early year release, late last year, but that Monte Cristo M is another home run by them. I really enjoyed that one.
This goes back to the point on I think it's going to be a competitive list this year. There's a lot of really good cigars that came out.
Yeah, I mean, there's my deadline for the release date is the end of this month, though. So if it's not released by the end of June, it pushes to the following year. Because I'm kind of anal on I'm very anal. It's just me. I'm crazy. It's not anyway. So, but those Romeo is eligible. A lot of these cigars that we've been talking about are eligible to come out this year. But if it's July, it's going to push to next year. Sorry, companies. That's just. I made Perdomo wait a whole year because literally, remember when Perdomo 30th came out? I was already building the list when the cigar got released. I couldn't squeeze that in at that point. It was just like it was way too late.
Here, it was late, like early
It was late,
fall.
and it really deserved not to be rushed in there either, in my opinion. And I heard you guys talk about how certain cigars went up or down, which I see a lot happen too. And that's a big factor, and that's why I'm so big on waiting, not putting like I call them the Johnny Come Lately releases of December. You don't want to throw those on an end of year list.
Hey, Coop.
I've had
Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt, but
No.
I gotta run upstairs. It's Anastasia related.
Go ahead.
I'll be back.
We got you, man. Go.
You got this. All right, I'll be back,
Yeah.
everybody. Don't worry. But I am
Yeah.
I'll shut off my camera feed.
No, it's
Yeah,
all
I
good.
am. Like the re-smokes I've noticed are really big. I mean, there's already I won't disclose which ones, but there's some cigars I've reviewed already that I've re-smoked since then, and it wasn't quite the same. So
Yeah. Yeah, and it's like I said, it's amazing what I've had certain cigars go up or down. What I do now is I re-smoke them after 30 days. This month's probably a little screwed up with me being sick, but And then I kind of build my list throughout the whole year. So the idea is, if I can adjust the list, see how it goes up or down with that. And usually I don't get as much movement of it, but there was one cigar, I don't want to throw the company on, but that went like from number 2 to number 11 last year. So that does happen. So I think people may know what it is now, but I just said it. So, but yeah.
Did you have the pork tenderloin yet?
I just ordered it from Jay, so I have not. I mean, I've smoked the pork tenderloin in the past. I've smoked previous iterations.
Yeah, I'll be curious what you think about it, because I've had probably 5 of them now, and you can tell it needs some age. It's a good smoke, but
Yeah,
you can tell like you want to sit on those for like 6 months to a year, and it's just gonna keep getting better.
yeah. Like a great example of the RL22 by Tatuaje. That's a cigar that when you sat on that, like when you had it when it first came out, you would say it's okay, but man, did that cigar really come into its own a few months later. And it's an amazing cigar with some age on it.
Yeah, because Matt and I were talking about that on Wednesday with Tatuai specifically. Is like he makes really, really good cigars, but I found that the limited releases that he does are always something you smoke and you're like, it's kind of like that Cuban approach. Like, oh, this is good, but damn, it's going to be great in like 12 months. You know, and that's like the Monster series. That's typically although I will say the Drac was an exception. The most recent iteration of the Drac, that one was great out of the box, but most of the time the Monster series, I'm like, all right, give it a year, you re-smoke it a year later, and you're like blown away by it. I mean, his Coraline stuff, Brown Label, out of the box, great cigars, ready to come. It's just the limiteds that kind of fall in that category.
Yeah, but Brown Label, in my opinion, has been smoking better than ever lately. I told Pete that as well. I don't know what – I think it's some of that Garcia tobacco now that's really coming into its own that they're using. It's because I've never had Brown Label smoke better than they have in the last couple of years.
Mm-hmm. And I used to be a Escassos fan. Like I would smoke the Escassos over the Brown Label, but now recently, like I had a Tangos Brown Label probably a month ago now, and it was like I was blown away by it. I posted a side to side with a Partagas Lusitania, and I tagged Pete in it. But yeah, it's just smoking really, really good. And I mean, even like the new broadleaf that they started using the past. I think Casey was telling me that maybe about 2 years ago, a year and a half ago now, they started using new broadleaf. And damn, that's again like the pork tenderloin. That's what that's using.
Yeah.
So it's
that's a good point. The broadleafs have been smoking better. You're 100% on with that. So like I said, I haven't smoked the pork tenderloin is always. I've always said the pork tenderloin was probably the second most sought after limited, but now I'd say it's first because it used to be the Anarchy was probably the most, and then but the Anarchy now is in the NFT. You can get Anarchies. So I think now it's the pork tenderloin that's taken over that spot now. As really, and they're going to go. I mean, if they're on the shelves now, I don't think you'll see them in a few more weeks.
No, I know Twins got in a good amount of bundles, and like I only got what I have because the GM over there put it aside just knowing I was going to want it. Because I think it was less than a day they sold out of them between like them putting them online and then people coming in, calling in for them. Yeah, they didn't last long, which begs the question on why doesn't Pete make more of them? But I guess, I understand the value of having something limited like that to throw out there, whenever you need to, and it's always going to sell. So it's better with the water.
Yeah, and I think Pete, I'm sure doesn't want to be too greedy with the Garcia's stockpile of broadleaf either. So I think obviously he's a member of the family, so he does what's right for the family too. And I give him credit on that. But ultimately, I think this whole new the Tuxtla series and now the Corojo series have been really, it's given Pete a lot in the way of innovation. And another cigar that aged, the Tuxtla Bella Ancre. That's my favorite. That's my favorite size now in that line by far. It's that Bella Ancre, whatever they did with that Tuxtla, It's the best one I've had.
Yeah, the Tuxla is like a love-hate with me because when it first came out, I wasn't a huge fan of it. I'm trying to remember what the first Tuxla was. It wasn't the T110. I think there was one before that.
There was the
Yeah, it might have been
Avion
the seventh, right? Or the Avion in the
and
seventh.
Yeah, but I wasn't a fan of the one with the Serto. I just wasn't a fan of that one.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah. I think it was the expectation is why it fell short for me, to be honest with you.
Yeah, but then he goes and puts the Tuxel on both the La Riqueza and the Bella Ancre, and I'm like, I was really surprised.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
both
Laura
center-
Crazy, that was. I smoked another one of those last week, and it's smoking unbelievably. And again, it goes back to like, I guess the age. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the San Andreas that he's using, if the longer time goes, the more it's
That's
sitting, or I don't know, like what the
it,
turnaround
it.
is, or how much he has that he's stockpiling. But
It seems like the newer Tuxlas were performing better than the older Tuxlas. So I think I agree with that, and that's why I think that the Bella Ancre and the La Riquezas were big surprises to me. And now he's re-released the seventh Tuxla is going to be regular production, from what I understand. So that's
yep.
going to be and I'm curious to give that another smoke because I did like the seventh. I didn't think, but it wasn't as good as the later ones.
Yeah, the seventh, like I really wanted to like it, but it wasn't. It was. I like strong cigars. I like spicy cigars, but it was too much. Like you didn't really get that kind of Cuban-esque aroma you get, like that floral sweetness you get from a Tatuaje. It was just overtaken by that wrapper.
Were you smoking when La Riqueza? I mean, probably you weren't when La Riquezas were much more prominently released. Because I always thought La Riqueza was one of the best broadleafs he did, but for whatever reason, that line never took off, and that's why
So
now it's more limited.
I have the luxury of having a couple boxes of the original 2009 Lonsdales. So I've smoked them, like the early iterations of it, but I think the first time it was released when I was smoking was when they did the PCA release a couple years ago and started doing that.
Yeah, that's kind of a tweaked blend. But yeah, La Riqueza was like, I mean, the hardcore Tatuaje fans love that cigar, but for whatever reason, it didn't take off. And it's like I said, it's one of his best broadleafs he's done, in my opinion. So I did smoke that the LE he did. It was good, but I like those original ones were better, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's a tie with me when it comes to like regular production with the Triumph. I just when it comes to broadleaf, it's one of the, in my opinion, one of the best cigars in the market with a broadleaf line for the price
Yeah.
point, especially.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you on that. And then I guess this year, Pete told us at the trade show he didn't have it at the trade show, but Mummy is coming out this year, which is the Criollo.
Oh yeah.
So the Mummy will be the next redo that he has. Mummies were one. I'll say this. What?
No, you can finish your point.
Mummies are the one cigar I think of, one of Pete's. Smoke them out of the box. Those are the ones that didn't age well, in my opinion. But when you got them out of the box, they were really good.
Is he doing any like of the sampler packs this year? The Halloween cigars? Or
No.
It's going to be.
I don't think I saw any of those. Yeah.
No, he didn't have any monster. He didn't have any monster samplers or anything like that this year.
Usually every 2 years is a sampler now.
Yeah.
He did the Smash last year, and so yeah, I mean, so I don't know what. I would like to see him do a Bellicoso series with it. That's just me. I think that would be cool to see some Bellicosos out there.
Yeah, you know what? I'll ride with you on that.
Whether the box
Yeah,
press, and he could do round and then box press. You could do both.
I know last year he came out with the event only sampler box, and it had the wolf in it, so it was kind of teasing last year's Halloween release, but it had like the original like Tatuaje Black Band like Robusto, which was the OG pumpkin. So it was a good box. It was, and I think it was like just MSRP at $99. It was like a steal for 12 like rare Robusto size Tatuajes.
Yeah. The true story with Twins, I was in Twins, this is like 2011 it was. And I went up there, and it was his old store, and I wanted to buy, I knew they had the Wolfmans. But I got in there, and they had sold them earlier. And the guy working there was this guy named Al. Al Conde. He eventually moved to Charlotte. That's a whole other story how he got reunited with him in Charlotte. And he gave me one personally, which was so nice. So I had my first Wolfman experience at Twins because he actually gave me one of his, which was very nice of him. Yeah.
Twins has always been a good tatuaje shop.
You remember, Matt, we went there and Kurt had those Claros, the brown label Claros.
Yeah, he did.
And I never had seen them in like forever. I mean, I knew about them, and Kurt had like a stockpile of those. Like, and I remember you pointed them out, like, wow. Like, and I ended up getting a whole bunch of those.
Yeah. That is the thing. Kurt, it's when it comes to, I mean, a couple of brands, but especially Tatuaje. From time to time, I don't get to spend as much time in there as I'd like to. Yeah, when I'm in there, it's like, what's he got for tap? Because sometimes things sneak up on you, and I'm sure Pat worked in that humidor, so I'm sure he can,
I'm
agree.
Sure there's like things in the catacombs. Another store that has a catacomb is Mr. J's in Rhode Island.
Literally, I've been down there.
They literally have this, like, yeah. And it's funny. Their old store used to have the same thing. There's this catacomb. You go down, and they have all these like
it's like an old bunker.
Yeah, it's an old bunker. It's humidified. And they have all these things in there. If they take you down there, yeah, you definitely bring your wallet because you're gonna spend money. Is what I'm gonna tell you.
Yeah. I mean, I remember when I went down there and I was like, "What the fuck is all this?" I was like, "What's going on?" Yeah, those guys are a great shop. Great people, great selection.
Yeah, they're great. And my old friend Stogie Santa used to work for them. He's retired. Avo LE10 is one of my favorite Avos. I bought every Avo LE10 box they had in the store because they had them and they weren't moving. I'm like, give them to me. I think I ended up with 6 boxes of those. It was like, just send them to me and bill my credit card. I said, because you couldn't get them. This was like 2 or 3 years after it was out. They had them down, and they had them in their old catacomb. And I'm like, give them to me. I want them. So I took them all from them. Wow. I bought them all, I should say. Yeah, I bought them all. Yeah.
Cleaned them out.
Because that cigar is epic. I mean, that was just the greatest. It's still the greatest Avo I've ever had. The Avo LE10. It was my cigar of the year in 2010, by the way. That's going how far back it goes. It was the first countdown I did. Yep.
Oh, well, sorry. I didn't mean finish that thought. Sorry.
No, it was. It was my first year I did a countdown. The Avo LE10 was #1 that year. And it was a landslide winner.
I was going to say, as you said that, I was trying to think. I'm like, have I ever cleaned out a store with something like that before? With all the cigars I've bought over the years, and believe I'm not bragging. It hurts to think about, but I've spent thousands of dollars, tens of thousands of dollars on cigars. I don't think I ever had a purchase like that, and I'm like surprised.
Yeah, with like over $700. I did a similar thing with the Joel Sherman, which was also a cigar of the year. I cleared out some of those as well. But it was like 3 boxes I did. It wasn't like 6.
Yeah, I'm trying to think. I definitely, when the Nat Sherman I definitely bought several bundles of things from Twins of Nat Sherman when that whole thing went down. To have, and a lot of it actually ended up being smoked. I don't have much of that left.
Those cigars that I hoarded, I smoked. I did, because they were that good.
Yeah.
They were that good. I mean, I kept a couple. I have a couple of LE10s still, and I have a couple of Joel Shermans, but for the most part, I've smoked them. I did not sit on those cigars.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to think. I think I had a couple boxes of the Timeless Sterling.
What a great those orange rust boxes.
Those are gone. And I think I have. I want to say I have like maybe 4 or 5 Nat Sherman Timeless Supremes left. The box press Robusto.
You know, Matt, I want to say it was on a Smoking Tobacco show. You had Herklotz on. You talked about that cigar.
Yeah.
And that's where I finally learned the story that the Joel Sherman came from the Sterling.
Yeah.
Like, I had never known. I suspected it because they were in the same wheelhouse, but that was a offshoot of the Sterling. And I wasn't surprised, but it was I think it was on Smoking Tobacco was the first time I heard that.
Yeah. That might have even been the show when I smoked one of my last really old Nat Shermans with Mike. I think I smoked I had an OG Timeless, like the old one with the actual clock face band.
The yellow. The only cigar that I say wasn't consistent, but it got better, was the Nicaraguan Timelesses. I think got better over time.
Okay,
I
yeah.
think when they first came out, I was a little on the fence with them, but I think they got a lot better as with subsequent releases.
Yeah. I was gonna say what sucks is because, when I first got into cigars, Nat Sherman was still around and whatever, and I smoked it for a little while, but then was it 2020, 2021 they closed up shop, and then that was it. And I bought what I could, and I ended up smoking most of it. I don't even have much of it left.
That's the one connection of that was a New York brand.
Yeah.
That's the one connection. If I have any cigar lineage with my dad, who wasn't really a cigar smoker, it was Nat Sherman because he smoked the cigarettes out of that. So he in addition to he smoked Carltons, but he liked the Nat Sherman cigarettes, and he would go in there. That's kind of always a brand. It's so New York, that brand. Matt, I remember when Mike released Timeless. It turned the whole company around.
Yeah,
it did. It was so well received because they were struggling. They really were. Most of their struggles were the stuff was getting hoarded out on the internet, right?
Yeah.
So they needed to create something exciting, and Timeless did that. And then while Timeless was kind of getting into the market, Mike was able to flush all that other stuff out of the internet and kind of rebuild it in the brick and mortars. And that took a long time because Metropolitan was like the last one he had to really build back in, and the Host. Those took a while. Great cigars, so it was good that's one of the great jobs of the last decade. What Mike did over at Nat Sherman. I don't think people realize when people let me just kind of rephrase. Let me kind of say this. Mike was with Davidoff, right? So consider Davidoff like the Boston Red Sox, right?
Mm-hmm.
Going to Nat Sherman at the time, that was like going to the Chicago White Sox. They were down. I mean, it was down. Great brand, great history, but they were down because they were. And Mike went in there and turned it all around.
Yeah, I mean, you got to give him credit, for everything he did with Nat Sherman, and now obviously what he's done on his own at Ferry Otego, and
it's a long process. You can't do it. And I think Suma was a good start for him to get a good core line with the Ferry Otego name on it. And it takes a while to build a brand. So,
I agree.
It does. You can't just get a hit. And I think sometimes it's better if the brand slowly builds up than has a hit early on and then falls. So.
Yeah, you don't want to be a one-hit wonder,
No, and you don't want to come out with like a core line and then have the next year a core line bastardize what you're trying to build up with. People say, well, Mike didn't come out with a new cigar the last couple of years. Smart move. I think it's smart. He's trying to build this up. He's doing it the right way.
Yeah, I mean, he's not, I wouldn't say, and this isn't, a disrespect thing. It's, he's doing great, but, he hasn't really, really exploded yet, and which is fine, because he's still building that foundation. It's still early, man.
It's still early, and He's the right. That company's got a long history with it. Yeah, just I give him, like I said, if I'm sure he's got a dozen blends he can release right now. He
Oh,
does a lot of
yeah.
stuff in the factory, but he's not doing that, and I give him credit on that.
At least he's ready, though. He's got stuff where when he's ready, he's like, you know what, we're gonna work this now. But
Yep.
he's definitely the kind of guy where I could see him being prepared, and he's got a plan. There's definitely a few characters in this business that are kind of fly by the seat of their pants, but he's not one of them.
No. He knows what he's doing. He knows what he's doing. This guy. By the way, he's a former Person of the Year award winner on Coop, as well. And actually, he got it the year he shut Nat Sherman down because of the dignity he brought to the brand and everything. We thought, it's kind of weird to see someone shut a brand down, but it was done with such, class and everything. And then we all knew he was coming back. We just didn't know how. But we all knew he wasn't going into the sunset.
Oh yeah.
I had no idea that he was in the works to try to get those brands. So,
he definitely rolled the dice, and so far it's worked out for him. And hopefully it can continue to go that way.
The other thing I'll say is he was also one of the first retailers I ever interacted with. He was at Davidoff and Madison Avenue. And the IBM building in New York City, where I used to work for IBM, was walking distance from there. And was one of my good friend Larry Connolly, who got me into smoking cigars and created this monster. Larry was a cigar guy, and he invited me to come in there one day. And the rest was history.
And then Cigar Coop was born.
He created a monster, I told him.
Yeah. And now now we have to deal with you every day.
Now we have to deal with me.
Yeah, we got to deal with you.
Yeah. But I always give my friend, I give Larry a lot of credit. In fact, when I was going to those cigar stores early on, I wasn't even smoking, but I liked being in the lounge. And eventually, you're going to start smoking. It just it happens. So that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's impossible for it not to. I don't think. I don't think you could be in that situation and not have that happen. I mean, you know, for me, like I can't really exactly remember when the turning point was. Well, no, let me take that back. I know when the turning point was. I can't really remember the specific first interaction. It's a blurred memory of 3 possible different occurrences. But yeah, I mean, the turning point was in 2019. I mean, that's when things changed for me here. But I mean, that first cigar interaction, I mean, most people remember it. I kind of don't, just because there was a lot of different things happening at that time. And when I first few times I tried cigars, it was kind of like secondary. It wasn't really like, oh wow, like I'm gonna do this. I sat down and I cut it and I lit it and I sat, like, it was like I was at a party and like everyone had some cigars and like I was like, yeah, and it was just kind of went for it. But I was, playing cards and drinking and doing other shit. And it actually might have been even one other time when I was with a friend of mine and he was like, I'm gonna smoke a cigar, and I was like, oh, well, I'll try one. And that might have been the time. But yeah, I mean, ...2019 for me, that was when my monster was created, and now you guys have to deal with me.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I don't know. But anyway, yeah, Mike's on the right path. He's doing some good stuff, and obviously I wish him the best.
Yeah, you can't build Rome overnight. I'm just telling everyone. He had to start with nothing. Remember, they had to flush all that stuff out of that chairman. Then he had to go reacquire a whole other inventory. It was I'm sure it was a financial challenge as well as a logistical challenge. So I think he's done I think he's made the right moves as far as his brand goes. And like I said, I still think I think there's going to be this monster cigar that comes out from him. It's going to be this. It's going to, there's a Joel Sherman in the waiting. Not that I know he's making one, but I'm sure there's another Joel Sherman type of cigar that we'll see from him, which is one of the greatest cigars I ever had.
Yeah, I could see Michael doing something like that. I think right now he's been very adamant about, kind of forgetting about Nat Sherman and watching this birth of Ferriotego. But that doesn't.
He has to.
But I think down the road, once Ferrotego is very comfortably established, I don't think he's also this kind of person who's like, well, but Nat Sherman's dead, man. I think right now that needs to be the story because you're trying to introduce a new name. But I think when that name gets established, I definitely could see him being like, more time has passed, and being like, you know what, let's do something that we do shine a light on Nat Sherman, which I think is the right move to make, and I think someday he will do that. But now is definitely not the time.
So, what he did, I remember when he was with Altria, is when they first started taking the Nat Sherman name off the cigars. When they started, they created these brands, like Timeless went from a line to a brand. The same with Metropolitan and at the time of Polka. That's what he did. And, he was trying to get those, and that was a reason at the time, because that was Altria, they needed to do that. They needed to separate that from Altria. Turned out to be a good move long term because Mike would have been to acquire the brand. I'm sure he wasn't going to be able to use Nat Sherman because Nat Sherman is still a cigarette brand in a lot of ways. Yeah,
Altria still owns the Nat Sherman names. They just don't own Timeless, Metropolitan, Epica, Post. That all belongs to Ferrotego now.
Yeah. Epica was a really good cigar. It's one I wish he would bring back. I don't think it moved really well. I don't think a lot of people understood that cigar either. But it was a really good cigar. Yeah,
and we've asked him about it a bunch of times, and he hasn't rolled it out, but I don't think it's something he
owns the brand, so he could do something.
Of course, I know, and he's acknowledged it. I think the if I remember correctly, the gist I've always gotten from him is obviously he'll do something with it eventually, but right now I don't think it's. He like we said in the beginning of this discussion, he's got enough right now. I think he should focus on that, and I think that's what his plan is. And that's something that down the line we'll bring that back too. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. And I think that's his I think that's his mentality. So yeah, I think a couple of years from now you see that it'll be kind of like, oh, all right, his the next Nat Sherman name to be revived. But yeah, slow and steady. Slow and steady.
I'd like to see Mike create a brand around New York still.
I could see him doing that.
I could see him doing that too. I'd really like to see it. That's something I think because the Nat Sherman name was a New York name. I don't think necessarily Timeless has the same effect, even though there's roots that trace back to it.
Right.
But some New York teams, Metropolitan, I guess he still has. So he's got that. So. Which I think they're so under. That Metropolitan Habano is one that Mike added into the series. And that's the best one by far.
You know what? Honestly, I think I agree with you. I remember that one. And when he brought it back, and he gave it to me. And he said, "Hey, smoke this." And I said, "Oh, okay." And I was like, oh, okay. And I was like all excited. I was like, oh, this will be good. And I remember I smoked it, and it's not that I didn't have high hopes for it or anything, but I was just like, oh, wow. And I looked at him, and he was like, right? And I'm like, this is, I think, the best one.
Oh yeah, not that the other ones were bad, but that one was an elevated.
It was exceptional.
And
it was.
The other ones he didn't create. He did the Casadas all do them, but he did this. He was much more hands-on with this one, so that I think was the difference with that.
Yeah. Look, he's made it this far. I think he definitely knows what he's doing.
Yeah, great guy too. On top of that, really good guy. So, a guy I also say. Personally, I may not agree with everything Mike does sometimes, but as a human being, when my dad was ailing and I had conversations with him, there were things Mike was offering to do for me, being up in New York. So I'll never forget that. That's the person he is on top of that.
Yeah, he really is. He's a great human being. On a personal note, he's a good guy.
Yeah, he is.
He genuinely cares about people, and he spends the time. Even after any time he comes on our show, we do a little bit of time after the show. We go, Mike wants to crack open another bottle of wine and just hang. He genuinely, he's a good guy, and there's been a few times where we finish a show at 9:30 and it's like 12:45. I'm like, Mike, I gotta go to bed. And he's like, yeah, man, all right. And it's just like, it's not that I don't like. We have a great time. He's fantastic. So, yeah.
And when he was at Twins, my suit prices too. He stepped in.
Oh,
He was
how could we forget about that? Oh my God. We're over here talking about how wonderful he is, and how can we forget about how he saved the day with Pat and his trial suit?
Listen, we have a suit story with Mike. When he came on the primetime show, it was the first time since the pandemic that he wore a suit, and he wore it on our show. So it was honored, yeah.
He's got to be a dapper Dan, The pandemic thing, I think everyone got a pass because no one knew what was going on, but Mike knew. He's like, something? Got to get the suit back on.
You need to go if you haven't.
Who I am.
If you haven't been to his seminars, are unbelievable. Now I just went to one in the DR, but he also would do one with burritos. We'd smoke the burritos, and then he would have you put multiple burritos in your mouth, and you can actually, when you tasted the two together, you were starting to get the flavors blending together. And I always thought that was one of the most amazing seminars he would do. I don't know if he's been doing those lately, but they were incredible seminars.
Yeah. Yeah, I think he does some of them at in-store events. The last time he did an in-store event was at Twins. And Pat, did he do anything before I got there, or is he just kind of there? Did he do any seminar? Yeah.
No, it was just.
But I know that other events that people I know have been to, he's done some stuff, and he's got the wine out, and done some pairing stuff, and
he just did one at Pro Cigar, and I know we talked about where he substituted tobaccos from different farms, and they weren't, and you could see the difference with the blend. And I was telling him, I said, and I told Josh, they need to bring that to PCA next year, because it would be an absolute. It was one of the best seminars I went to. With all due respect to Jose's seminars, and Manuel knows they're great. It's a different. Like I said, it's just a different type of seminar.
Yeah. He knows how to work a room. You got to give him that too. He knows how to get a group together and as
Jose, him and Jose will. Have you been to a Jose seminar?
No, as well as I know Jose, I've actually never gotten to do that.
Okay. Yeah, he hasn't done as many of them with Fuente. That's why, because now he's not here. And really, most of your interaction with Jose has been with Fuente. So Jose would do these cigar that had different wrappers segmented on it, and you get you'd have to kind of identify what the wrapper was he had on. But here's the thing: if you go to a Jose Blanco seminar, you are going to get called on. No one is like Jose will pick on you and call on you. Every person in the audience. No one gets off the hook. So if you're one of the guys and you think you're not going to talk in the seminar, Jose's going to come after you.
Yeah, Jose's is not the event for you then, if you just want to hide in the back. And Jose is going to bust your balls too, especially if you give him a reason to.
And when I got 4 of the 5 rappers wrong, he completely, dressed me down. And then he said to me, "Well, someone else in the media got all 5 wrong. I don't want to throw that person under the bus. He's really good. He's got a really good palate, though. I'll just say that." But Jose will look. He got 4 of the 5 wrong. He's like, because you overthink it. Is what happens. So when you're doing a seminar and you're trying to guess the rapper, you overthink it. Is what happens. So,
oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
There's definitely a difference between you're sitting at home doing it and you're just kind of like, versus like everyone's watching you and it's like, what is this? And you're like, San Andreas. No.
I kept saying
Shit.
Piloto Cubano, and he's like, you're not rapper. He's like
Piloto Cubano.
Piloto Cubano. That's one. There's 2 tobaccos I associate with Jose Blanco: Piloto Cubano and Cameroon. In that order.
I love how there's also an order for it too.
No one worked with the blends that Jose did when he owned the Señorial were incredible, and they all had Piloto Cubano.
Yeah. Yeah, Jose is another one, man. He's magic. I don't know. So, Coop, I know we don't really do guests, but I have very few exceptions.
I would make an exception.
I think the Spare Note show would be interesting to let Jose join us. I think it would be.
I'm okay with that.
I think, and don't let me forget, we need, and if you get to him first, we need, one of us needs to bring it up with him. We need to like put it in his ear, be like, we want you to come on the show with us. We don't normally do this, but I feel like what we might encounter on this kind of platform forum style that we do the show.
Yeah.
I think it would be very eye opening, in good ways. In good ways.
You should have you should have him send us unbanded blends, and then we smoke them with him.
Good luck with that.
Yeah, good luck with that. He can't even drive himself around town. Coop, I need someone to drive me. I got 5 suitcases. They're all like 500 pounds, and I got to get to this thing in like 2 hours, and I don't have a car. It's like, okay, I'll drive you.
I drove down. Oh, I'm in Tampa, by the way.
It's Coop.
I've done.
Where do you want to go?
So I've done them in 3 cities. Las Vegas was first, Tampa was second, and Charlotte was last year. I drove them around Charlotte last year.
Yeah, Jose is he is. He's a special breed. You gotta love him. I mean,
I know he's got some more trips to the States this year. He told me that, so he's got some places he'll be visiting in the States this year.
He's got a saying that he always likes to share with us, and it's your friend is not the one who makes you laugh. Your friend is the one that makes you cry, and it's very true. And it's one of the best things I think anyone's ever said to me. And I associate that with Jose Blanco, and he's definitely had those moments with me. And it's one of the reasons why I really love the guy, because he's somebody who, it's not just that he's a good guy or a smart guy. I mean, he just he fucking gets it, and he's not afraid to, speak the truth.
Your first show with him was during COVID, right? And that's right before he got sick.
Yes.
And I was watching him on that show, and I'm like, something's not right, And then I didn't hear from Jose for days. And the one thing I always hear about with Jose is with Cigar Aficionado list. Like, he is like, this is like, the playoffs for him, right? And when I didn't hear about him on the Cigar Aficionado list, I knew something was wrong, and that's when I reached out to Emma and found out what was going on. Because I suspected something's not right. He's not returning my phone calls. And he's not talking about this, and I don't think he's mad at me. I know if he's mad at me because he'd tell me. But,
oh yeah, he'll tell you. He won't hide it from you.
But he had done your show, and I remember he was doing that show. I don't think he was smoking that day when he did that show either, which was unusual for him.
Well, he had told me at the time Jasper was sick, and that they were all separating, whatever. And I don't think he wasn't really feeling it yet, and so he was in one room by himself.
I remember that room he was in. I never saw that room he was in before, because normally in the place in Macedonia, I know where he does the show.
And he said he wasn't gonna smoke, and then that day he was like, "Oh, I'm just not feeling great." He wouldn't say he was sick or anything. He was like, "Oh, just not really feeling right or whatever." And I said, "Yeah, no problem." And he said, "But I'm good to go." And I said, "Okay." And I really didn't think much of it though. And then we did the show, and it was great, and it ended, and then. That's when, some time had passed. I didn't really hear from him. I was like, oh, hope he was okay with that interview. And then I started to get to the grapevine. He was really sick. He was in the hospital. And then at that point, everyone knew about it. And he was still going through that. And someone said to me, like, oh my God, you might have got the last Jose Blanco interview.
You got the
and I was like, what do you mean? They're like, I mean, I'm not wishing the guy anything, but I heard he's in really bad shape. And I was like, I heard he was sick, and it was like, no, he's in rough shape, and I was like, oh shit. And then it was like it was only like a few days later when he started to kind of come out of it, and I was like, oh my God, thank God. Like.
Yeah, and then the other time, unfortunately, was I was at Pro Cigar, and I knew he was sick, and then he disappeared from Jose disappears from Pro Cigar. You get worried.
Oh yeah, I remember that.
And he had the heart issue there. And I was glad he was okay as well. So the guy, look, he's not young, but how he travels God bless him. Really, last thing, when we talk about Fuente and Perdomo in particular, when these guys commit to do shows, if something happens, they always find someone to get on the show for you. They don't ever back out of their commitments on that. And even when I have no problem if they did. We had like Liana on, and her grandfather died once. And, we had another one when Nicholas got sick, and they always come through with that, and it's not taken for granted. I can tell you that.
Yeah, I gotta give him a lot of credit for that, because it's true. And I understand when things come up and people have to cancel, like, because shit happens. I've been there too.
Yeah.
But I gotta give them a lot of credit, because they make the effort to be like, well, let's see what we can do here versus losing a whole show, because they know, and they're actually, and it's not a knock on everybody else, because I wouldn't expect everyone to do it, but they are one of the only people that actually does that. In my experience of doing these shows over all these years, between this show and the other show, I've probably shot over 600 episodes, and I think they're one of the only people. And granted, emergencies don't happen all the time either, so it's a little unfair. But of all the people who have, I think they're the only ones that were like, let's figure something out. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Raid, the guy I met in Dubai, was supposed to be on a show last Thursday. He had to cancel. He had a legitimate reason, and he was still willing to do the show. I said, look, we could swap someone in here. And he's coming on next week. And he's doing the show at 6 in the morning, by the way, in Dubai. So, but he had a situation he had to deal with. And I'm like, right, we'll work it out, It gave me enough notice, so. And we worked it out, so.
Yeah, no, that's when you can still kind of salvage a show. It's kind of a very satisfactory.
Yeah.
It's a satisfying feeling, so to speak. It's like, oh, that's good, because like for a minute there, I thought we were just gonna lose the whole show, and and it's fine. No one's gonna die, but it still sucks.
No. But Raid didn't really have anyone else who could do it in that case.
Yeah.
So it's like it was made sense. So we know. I said, well, right, don't worry about it. We'll by the way, when this guy, one of the greatest cigar ambassadors, I can't wait till this guy's on the show, because he is. Like I said, I've become like, me and him become like buddies now. It's like we hit it off so well in Dubai. So
yeah, at Dubai, man, I tell you, you look like you had a great time. I know we talked about it last week too, but
I'm gonna, if the PCA show takes off there, I'll go. I'm not going to go to first year, but to be honest with you, I just can't budget it this year. It's still an expensive proposition. I probably have to think about that 2 years in advance to do it. But I would go, and I think it will give that time. And that show's got to get a little time to get off the ground. I wouldn't judge that show on year one. Give it a couple more years before it's going to be. I think it's going to be a great show. I think the PCA made the right move going in there. After going into that city, you just have to be in that city to understand why they're putting a show there.
Yeah, and I'll take your word for it. I haven't been there, but I am very curious to see it myself. I've always heard such great things.
Yeah, it is. I want to go to Abu Dhabi next time. I don't know if I'll be back there next year with my company. It's just things change business-wise. There's not a commitment to go there every year, but I'll go back there at some point. I will tell you that.
Yeah. Look, guys. We in terms of me, I'm running out of time.
Okay.
Because I gotta wrap up the show soon.
Yep.
Couple of things before we wrap up the show. I want to make a shout out to some of our friends here that help make the show happen, such as Perdomo Cigars, featuring our cigar of the year, the Perdomo 30th Anniversary Sun-Grown Epicure, and now the Perdomo Legacy, which will be hitting all store shelves very, very soon, as well as our friends at ST Dupont. Shake up the Legacy, featuring all of our new Line 2 Monogram Collection lighters, and now in Legrand. At PCA, they added the Legrand to the Monogram Collection. Ask your local retailer today for more information on ST Dupont. Check out the Legacy.
Yeah, I just put a review out of this. Best soft flame lighter I've ever used. Simple.
By far. It's just fantastic. I mean, and again, it's not just because it's flashy. I mean, functionality-wise, I mean, you get what you pay for, dude. I mean,
Yeah, it's look, the craftsmanship in this thing is, the galoche, and all that engraving is I can't really show it on here to do it justice, but trust me, it's a work of art.
Oh yeah, fantastic. It is. But yeah, that's our Spare Notes show for this week. Appreciate you guys all being here. Wednesday night we'll be back with Smoking Tobacco show, and we'll leave me doing the Saka giveaway, that show, and then we'll announce the next one, which is very exciting. I think. Well, actually, I'll say it here really quickly before I have 2 more minutes. I think we're gonna do a Saka impersonation contest for the month of June. If you guys can come up with a Saka impersonation, it's gotta beat Pat's though. I mean, Pat's
Level. It's gotta be a Pat level. Yeah. It's not,
yeah, or at least Pat level. That's fair. That's fair. It's hard to beat Pat
Yeah.
on that one.
No, you're not gonna beat him, but get close to it. Yeah.
Yeah, if you can like seriously, not like half-assed, spend like 5 minutes thinking about it, and yeah, we'll pick the best one, and you'll get a box of DTT and a mug. The whole month of June. You can send it to us. You can tag us in it on social media as long as we see it. I think that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna try that one out. I'm gonna try that one on for size and see what happens with that. But anyway, so that's our show for this week. Thank you guys once again. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Head to smokingtobacco.com for more news, reviews, and updates on the cigar industry. And we'll see